Okay, real quick, y'all. I'm fixing to do a tutorial and show y'all how I took this Primo clay, one of these glass stones, and turned it into this vintage Santa charm. Now, excluding the little charms on the bottom, but Neri had asked me if I would do a step-by-step tutorial on one of these, so I'm going to give it a go. Alright, I'll be right back. Good morning, everybody. This is Lynn from Lynn's Crafts, and I thought I would just come on today. I'm going to try to do a step-by-step tutorial on a little piece of this polymer clay jewelry. So I'm going to start out with this original Sculpey oven baked clay, and it just came from Walmart. It's like a 16-ounce package, and it's like $5.99. Now on some of the pieces, on most of the pieces, I use Sculpey 3 or some Primo for the bezels of the pieces. So right now I'm just going to make a mold. I'm not going to use this mold on this particular piece of jewelry, but just as an example of how I make my molds. It's just regular polymer clay. I don't buy the mold putty or whatever it is or anything like that. I just put a little Pearl X powder on there. You can use cornstarch, you can use baby powder, just any kind of release agent. You can actually just mist it with a spray of water, as long as it's not too wet, just barely has a spritz on it, it'll release just fine. This is a piece from a broken samurai sword my son had, and he took it apart and did all kinds of stuff to it, put it back together. So, alright, my clay is not quite long enough. Not that it mattered, it would have squished out. Alright, I'm just going to mash it in there, literally. This is new to me. I'm not used to seeing my camera right in front of me. A lot of y'all do your videos like this, I know, and I can see why it's a pain. Alright. And normally what I would do is, I have an acrylic block that I've used for years just for my clay. I would mash down on the top of that so that I get a level backing on my piece, just so that it makes the back of the piece flat when you're done. But if you can see, this thing's got little doodads on the back of it, so I can't do that. So I'm just gonna fake it. Let me try something. Oh, look at me, yes I can. Might just be a little weird spot on each end. Now, if you can tell, I kind of am dragging that out just a little bit instead of towards the piece. I don't want it to mound up over the piece. Alright, now I've got it pretty flat. And because of the powder, it will come right out of there. And there's what I'm left with. Now, luckily that was just a little thin bit that lifted up when I pulled out the mold. Pulled out the piece. Now, normally, I don't make a mold of other people's pieces, so to speak. I'll make something on my own, but this was fixing to go in the trash, so I saved it out of going in the trash. That's a good thing, right? It is actually a dragon of some sort, a Chinese dragon. So, then I'll take that piece right there and just bake it in the oven. 30 minutes. On my oven, it's like probably 220 on mine, although the recommended, I believe, is 230, but I have a thermometer in there, so on my oven, 230 is about 220. So, I'm going to bake this, but I already have a piece in the meantime, so I'm going to make a little mold of this snowflake right here, which is from some, I just got through saying I don't make molds of other people's work, but this was off some old plastic trim, Christmas trim from the dollar store. So, again, with the little Pearl X, and this is just the regular pearl I believe it's the macro. And I usually try to make sure I get a little bit around the edge so that my overfill lets go also. And I didn't get another piece of clay out. Sorry about that. This little batch that I got last time was so... you can see the plasticizer leaching out of it. It is so soft. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. For me, not a good thing. I'm used to a little bit firmer clay, although I don't like it. I don't like it super firm. This right here, this Primo, is really nice. I mean, it's just almost usable right out of the package. I just pulled out a block of gold, however, that is a Sculpey 3. And it's just so hard I almost can't work with it. I'm sorry, no, it's another silver. But in the Sculpey 3. And it was just almost, I don't think, this Sculpey 3 is not normally that hard, so it must be an old block. But if you seal it up, and I have a, this is weird to say, but I have an old Nestle's Quick container. And if you seal it up in there for, you know, a couple of months, it normally will come out okay. At least usable. Alright, my memory card's fixing to be full. Sorry about the bump. So here's what I'm going to do. Mash it in there. And, you know, normally I'm a little more prepared. Alright, excuse the paint. I'm going to flip it over on there. Try to get... I can see... Alright, just another second or two is all I got on here. So I'll pull it off and you can see there's the snowflake. What I normally will do is I'll take my X-Acto and I'll just cut a nice little shape around that. You can also take your tissue blade. I wouldn't recommend it with the super soft clay, but you can take your tissue blade and slice the snowflake off if you want a nice thin snowflake. But I'm going to use it as a charm piece, so I'm going to cut out with my X-Acto. So I'll do that and I'll come back and show you what that looks like in a minute. Okay, here it is. Now what I've got is a metal knitting needle. Let's see if I can keep myself out of the picture here. And I'm just going to poke it in and wallow out a little bit of a hole. And this super soft clay, it ain't easy. So, there we go. Now, I'll bake that and okay, for this piece, I'm going to use one of these glass stone things from, well, you can get them everywhere. From Walmart, from Michael's. I don't know about Hobby Lobby and Joann's. I don't have any of those except for the Walmart close to me. And these didn't come from Walmart. My husband did a job where he had to dig up a driveway before they could put in a pool. And these things were mixed in with some crushed marble along the sides of these people's driveway. And so he brought me home a bag of these. So sweet. A little bit of clay. Comparatively, couldn't even tell you, it's a half a bar. It's a half a bar of one of these bars of clay in the 2-ounce pack. And then I just printed off a vintage image of a Santa and trimmed it off, and it's going to go behind there. Now, a word of caution. I don't have glossy accents, but the triple thick glaze, which is very, very similar to the glossy accents, will react with clay, and not in a positive way. It will continually try to leach through the clay, and it turns it mushy even after it's baked. It'll seem alright for a month or so, but then you'll go to pick it up and it's just like it's deteriorating. So I do not use the triple thick glaze with anything with the clay. Embossing powders are fine. Alcohol inks work great. There's all kinds of products you can use with the clay. Like I said, I'm not sure about the glossy accents because I don't have any, so I've never tried it. But the triple thick glaze is a no-no. And from the smell and the properties, they must be very similar. So, caution, test first. I use a product that just comes from the hardware store in my area, Lowe's, and it's just a bullseye water-based gloss sealer. So that's what I'm going to use to glue this down to the back of my stone. And when that's dry, I'll go on to the next step. So, be back as soon as I finish that. Okay, here's that bit of clay that I've got rolled out. I actually do have a dedicated pasta machine and all that, but I just used my acrylic roller. I'm just trying to show y'all with the minimum amount of special tools, just like as if you were just starting. So I'm going to take that and put it on my baking tile, which I don't have any tiles. I just happen to have these goofy little glass mirrors that I guarantee you they're early 80s, late 70s bathroom decor. They had picture hangers on the back of them, and they hung on a bathroom wall, 3 of them. I think there was 3 of them. So, normally I would take my cutter and just cut my vase similar in size to my piece. But since this is an odd shaped piece, I'm just going to take my X-Acto. Sorry about that. Little bump. There we go. Extra right here. Okay. Something like that. You can't really see the clay underneath, but at the moment that's okay. Now, I'm going to take this bit of clay that I've got left, my trimmings, and I'm going to roll it into a snake. You know, like you did with Play-Doh when you were a kid. I'm going to help it out by elongating it a little bit. And like I said, I've had this acrylic block that I've used with my clay since, I'm not kidding, before I knew what acrylic blocks were for. So, it's super easy to get a nice, uniform snake like this. And I'm going to take it down till, I don't know, it's probably a 1/8 of an inch or so. And when you hear that sound, it's getting out around. So I'll just mash it a little bit and get it back into round. If you're careful enough, it'll re-round itself out. But if you've got dry clay and it starts making that noise, it's because your clay is crumbling. Alright, get myself out a bit. And I'm going to fold me some in half. My little 2 diameters are a little bit different there. And let's see what I got here. 4 inches or so, ish, doubled over. And I do work on a glass, and under my glass, obviously, is my cutting mat. And it's not a heat-safe cutting mat, but luckily my glass is. It's a huge sheet of tempered glass. Came off an old TV set my son used to have. And when the TV died, I said, it was in a cabinet that had this glass on the front. So I had my husband save the glass for me. Then I'm just going to twist it, twist it, twist it, twist it, so it's pretty uniform. I've got a little bit more here. Alright. And then let's go from bottom to top. Alright, I'm fixing to get cut off by my memory card. Okay, real quick before my memory card's full, I will take it to the top, whatever I'm going to call the top, which is going to be the upright Santa right here. And where my rope starts to get too thin there, I normally would take, I'd have a different blade, but and I'll cut right between two of those spirals and kind of cut back in on itself. Okay, and then same thing, I'll bring this around, tighten this a little bit, and I'll measure where my end is. I'll just cut this little end off and it should fit. And as you can see, I just cut that tiny little end off and it will lay right back down there. And I'm going to empty my memory card and I'll be right back.